Students of Reddit, which teacher had the ultimate Karen meltdown? In high school, we had this one teacher who apparently decided that students were spending way too much time playing games on the school computers. I mean, seriously? No one saw it coming, but one day, out of nowhere, she blocked every single game across the entire school's network. It didn't matter if you had finished all your work, had 5 free minutes left in class, or were just trying to kill some time during lunch, games were officially off limits. At first, we all thought it was a joke. I mean, what kind of teacher goes out of their way to kill literally the only thing that makes school even slightly tolerable? But nope, when we logged in, there it was, no games, no solitaire, no Minesweeper, not even those cheesy flash games that everyone secretly loved and kept you sane during boring classes. It felt like we were being punished for just existing, and the entire student body was heated. The word spread faster than a new TikTok trend, and before you knew it, the whole school was buzzing about how Mrs. Gameblocker had single-handedly ruined the one thing that kept us going through those endless school days. Now, let's be real. We weren't just sitting in class focused on schoolwork 24/7. It's high school. We needed a break, a little escape. And what's the harm in a little game here and there, especially when we're done with everything? But no, this teacher was clearly on a power trip, and she wasn't about to let us enjoy even a second of free time. Naturally, some students weren't going to just sit around and let this happen. The more tech-savvy kids in class, you know, the ones who always have some kind of hack, immediately started plotting. Within a day, they were working on ways to bypass her restrictions. It was like a mission straight out of a heist movie. They found proxy sites, VPNs, and all sorts of backdoor tricks to sneak the games back onto the computers. For a little while, it actually worked. A few games came back, and for a brief moment, there was hope that we'd be back to killing time with our favorite online distractions. But then, as if she had some kind of sixth sense for teenage rebellion, the teacher found out. And let me tell you, when she did, she wasn't just mad, she was on a mission. It was like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. She doubled down, installing even stricter controls, making it nearly impossible to access anything remotely fun. She wasn't content with just blocking the games anymore. She wanted to make sure everyone knew she was in charge, like we were living in some sort of dystopian school dictatorship. And she didn't stop there. Oh no, she went full Big Brother on us and installed tracking software on all the school computers. One day during class, she proudly announced that she could now see exactly what each student was doing on their screen at any given moment. "I'll know who's working and who's wasting time," she said with this smug smile, like she was some kind of tech overlord. And she wasn't bluffing. Not even a little. She started printing out reports, showing who had tried to access blocked content, and she'd call them out in front of the entire class. Like, how are you going to embarrass us like that? This wasn't about learning anymore, it was straight up about control. You could feel the tension building, and soon, it wasn't just the usual troublemakers who were upset. Everyone was. Even the kids who didn't care about playing games started to get annoyed. This teacher was acting like we couldn't even have a single minute of downtime without being watched, like we were under surveillance 24/7. Some kids even started openly talking back to her during class. "Why do you care so much what we do in our free time?" someone asked one day. "It's not like we're hacking the system, we're just trying to chill." But the more we complained, the more she dug in. You could tell she was thriving on it, like the more chaos she caused, the more satisfied she was. The breaking point came during a computer lab session, and let me tell you, that day was wild. We were supposed to be working on some boring assignment about researching careers or something. Nobody was really paying attention. The mood in the room was already tense because we knew we were being watched like hawks. Then, one of the students, let's call him Jake, just couldn't take it anymore. He had been simmering all week, and I guess this was his moment. Out of nowhere, he stood up, slammed his chair back so hard it almost tipped over and shouted, "This is so freaking ridiculous. You can block all the games you want, but you can't stop us from figuring it out. We're not robots." The room went dead silent. Everyone turned to look at Jake, and even the teacher froze for a second, completely caught off guard. She tried to regain control, telling Jake to sit down, or he'd face detention, or suspension, or whatever, but Jake wasn't having it. Instead of backing down, Jake walked straight up to the front of the room, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "You think you're in charge? All you've done is make everyone hate you." Then he did something none of us saw coming. Jake reached over to the teacher's desk, grabbed her coffee cup, like, straight up grabbed it, and, in one smooth motion, poured it out all over her keyboard. The entire room erupted in gasps, a few nervous laughs here and there. It was wild. No one could believe what they were seeing. The teacher lost it. She went from 0 to 100 real quick, shouting for Jake to leave, threatening him with suspension, expulsion, the works. But Jake? He just shrugged, tossed the empty coffee cup back onto her desk, and calmly walked out of the room like he didn't have a care in the world. The rest of us? We just sat there, stunned, unsure whether we should cheer or brace for the absolute storm that was about to come down on all of us. And sure enough, Jake was suspended. But let me tell you, he became a legend after that. His story spread like wildfire throughout the entire school. Even though we never got our games back, Jake had given us something else to talk about, something to rally behind. For the rest of the year, people would whisper about that day in the computer lab, and even though we were stuck without our precious online games, at least we had one epic story to remind us that sometimes, even in the most controlled environments, someone will stand up and say, "Enough is enough." The whole thing became more than just about games. It turned into a symbol of how ridiculous school rules can be. We're expected to sit still, stare at a screen, and just grind away without a break like we're all in some productivity contest. Meanwhile, teachers are in the back grading papers, sipping on coffee, or scrolling through their phones. And when we try to take even a second to catch our breath, suddenly we're the bad guys? And it's not just about games either. The whole everything you do is tracked vibe made us all feel like we were walking on eggshells. The pressure was insane, like we couldn't do anything without someone looking over our shoulder. It wasn't enough to get good grades or participate in class. Now we had to worry about every little thing we did online too. And for what? To prove some point that fun equals bad? That didn't sit right with anyone, especially when we all knew we were working hard. There's only so much a person can take before they snap. Even though Jake was gone, his actions were a reminder that sometimes you just have to stand up, even if you know the consequences are coming.